Hi guys, right, we're back with the Audi S8. This time, problem with the rear lights. Now, anyone that knows much about these cars, especially the older ones, will know that the LEDs in these go bad from time to time. The LEDs are arranged in such a way that if one of them blows, or there's a dry joint in the solder, or one of them disconnects for some reason, the other ones all receive a higher amount of current, and so when one goes, you'll find that the other ones will follow. I'm just looking at this cluster. These look okay. I did have these lights apart, all of them, when I bought the car, because there was various LEDs missing, but I had to fix them all. Now, what's happening on this side is that this entire module here has gone off. Now, this only happened after the car was jet washed, and the seals on these lights are pretty bad. They do let the water in. You'll find that you'll get condensation in these if they get wet. Now, fortunately, these ones are more difficult to take out than these ones. These ones are fairly easy. These ones you have to take a bit of the boot apart. So I'll just open the boot now. I'll just show you what's involved in taking these out. Okay, so there's two, well, there should be two, there's one missing on mine, but there's two covers. You just get a small screwdriver, pop these out, and there are a couple of 10mm bolts just inside. Remove those two, and this cluster just comes out. The ones on the back of the boot, if you need to take those out, there are plenty of videos online to how to do this, but this pops off. There are a couple of clips inside, and once you pull this down, there's about 3 bolts, I think it is. They're really difficult to get to. You have to pull this down as much as you can and then get a little spanner in there. But yeah, they are quite serviceable because the boards inside these, they're not sealed. You just a couple of clips and the back of it comes off. So what I'll do is I'll take this one out, I'll get it on the bench, and we'll take a look and see why this has gone off. If I remember rightly, the indicator on this one had failed when I first bought the car, and that was because there was water in there and there was some corrosion inside the board. So possibly the same as happened with the brake lights. So yeah, I'll get on the bench and we'll take a look. So what we need to do now is to take off the back cover. 4 clips, 4 plastic clips. Just requires a small screwdriver to loosen off each one. And the back simply comes off like so. So there's a socket inside here. The wires are connected to the main board at the back of the cover, and then inside there are separate boards for each of the LED panels. So these ones here are the brake light and side lights, and these ones are the indicators. There's a socket in the back here, so you can disconnect that straight away. Give you some more room. So what we need to do with this one is to identify why these aren't operating at all. As I said before, the individual LEDs, if you have one or more that are blown, you can buy replacement LEDs. The type of LED that looks the best in this, or looks similar to the factory, are called straw hat LEDs. I might have one somewhere. Let me just grab one. Ah, yes. Okay. So these are the ones that I bought to repair it last time. So straw hat 5mm LEDs, and the straw hat, the difference is that physically they're a little bit shorter, but the main difference is they've got a much wider field of view. I think these are 120 degrees field of view, so they're not as directional as some of the LEDs. and when they're in these light clusters they just look like the factory ones. Because the whole panel has gone off together, both of these boards, I'm guessing to start with that it's not the individual LEDs that's broken, otherwise every single one will have blown, which I think is unlikely. More likely is a problem with this board. Now you can see this little bodge wire here. This is what I repaired last time. So there was a track. It was very small, I can't seem to see it at the moment, but there was, when I traced why the power had stopped, one of the tracks had corroded just slightly and made a break in the track. So putting a wire across repaired that indicator last time, but I'm going to have to trace through the power. So the connector on the back, there is 4 connectors on this. You've got the side lights, the brake light, indicator, and a ground, a common ground. So it's easy enough to trace from the socket, which is there. You can trace that through the circuit and figure out what's going on. So that's if a whole cluster is off like this. What I'll do is I will take off one of these boards just so you can see what's involved if you have individual LEDs that have failed. Okay, so to get these boards out, it's a T15 Torx. And then the boards just lift out. And you can see the LEDs soldered in there. Of course, the indicators, which are these ones, are going to be orange, and the brake lights and the side lights are red. They're all clear visually, but when they're powered up, they're different colours. So that's all you need to do. If you have an Audi A8, S8, the rear lights have failed, you get some dark patches, some of the LEDs aren't working, you can just buy replacement straw hat 5mm LEDs and unsolder and re-solder the replacements in as required. But as I said, I don't think that's the issue with this, and I'm going to test that now. I'm going to get a 12-volt power supply, which I've got on the bench here, and I'm just going to power these up just to see whether they still light correctly or not. So that took longer than expected. What's actually happened is a complete board of LEDs has blown on here. So it's as I was saying before, if one LED goes in a panel, more current runs through the other LEDs and they're more likely to take them all out. They're not actually wired in with separate current limiting resistors, which if they were, it would protect it a little bit more. Just had to do a quick diagram here of what happened. So this is how the boards are wired up. 3 boards. These are the brake lights / side lights. The ground comes in, goes all the way to the top board through 3 low value resistors, 1 ohm, 1.5 ohm resistors. There's actually 8 LEDs per board. I've just drawn in 3, so 8 LEDs in parallel per board, and then each board is wired up in series. So what's happened is all of these 8 LEDs here have all gone open circuit, and of course the current then can't flow between here and the next board. These are all open circuits, so it's as if these just aren't there. And I've tested this by applying a power to the boards, not lit, and if I simply bridge out one of these LEDs, so these top ones here, I'm just going to bridge these 2 rails together. You see that the other ones now light. I'm not running them at full current, so that's why they look a bit dim. There's another one off there actually, just spotted. We'll put them back on again. Just turn the voltage up a little bit. You see how this one isn't lit? This is what happens. You get the odd one not lit, and then the others, you might be able to see that they're running slightly brighter than these ones. So what I need to do is I'm going to unsolder these 8 LEDs plus this faulty one here and replace those. It's a good job I've got some spares. If you are going to buy them, I mean, these were from a Chinese seller, literally a couple of pounds for 100, so make sure you've got plenty in stock if you're thinking about doing this. So what I'm going to do is I'll replace those 8 and that one there, and then I'll come back and we'll test that. Okay, I've just finished soldering in these LEDs, and as you can see, they're all lighting up now. What I have noticed is, though, if I turn it up to the correct, oops, trying not to short them out. If I turn it up to the correct voltage level, you might be able to see that these ones, I'm not sure how that's picking up on the camera, but these ones are brighter, and this one here is brighter. Now these are the 8 and the 9 that I've replaced. And if I adjust the voltage, you'll see them all twinkling just slightly. In fact, you can see that one there reduces in brightness when I turn the others up, and so does that one. And that's because the way they're wired up in parallel without current limiting resistors. So if they're evenly matched like these ones are, it's fine. Turn it up and down, the brightness is uniform. But where you've got a mismatch, that's where the problem occurs. And that's what's happened to this board originally. One's gone out and left the others with more current, and then another one's gone out, another one's gone out, until it's took the whole board out. And that's what knocked out the voltage to the other two. So what I might do, this is going to work, but the fact that some are getting more current than others, what I think I'll do with this board is replace the other ones too. So I'll replace these 8 plus the 7 on this board with the new ones. I've got plenty there, and then they'll all be the same brightness. Less likelihood of them blowing in the future as well. So I may have to do that with all of the lights, but for this, for the moment, I'm just going to do this board. So let me swap them out, and I'll come back. Right, so here we are, all the LEDs replaced. Time for a test. Let's put the power on. Okay, and I hope you can see that the brightness is the same for all of those now. So yeah, it was a bit more work. I had to replace all of the LEDs. Well, I didn't have to replace them all. I had to replace 9 because they'd blown. But to be on the safe side, for the price of the LEDs, the time it took, I might as well replace them all. And there's a good chance I won't have to go into this cluster again. So I'm going to put this back together now, and we'll get it back on the car. Okay, so that's the board screwed back into the light. Reconnect the connector on the board, and then this will just snap down onto the clips. and that's ready to go back on the car. Okay, so refitting this is a reverse of what we did before. So we're going to fit this back in and give it a try. So, get this back up. Easy enough. 2 bolts go back in there. Let's give it a try first, make sure it's okay. Yeah, they're looking fine now, and hopefully that'll last a while longer now. We're lucky that these are so serviceable, easy to open, and through-hole construction on the board means they're very easy to unsolder and replace. So I think the takeaway from this is, if you've got 1 or 2 LEDs out on your backlights, if you can notice a dark patch, I think it's probably worth replacing all of those LEDs, just so you don't have to keep taking it off and replacing them like I did. So thanks very much for watching this, and if you have any comments, please leave it below. For those of you wishing to do this yourselves, the LEDs I bought from an eBay seller called Bright Components. If you go onto their listing and search for straw hat LEDs, you'll see the red ones and yellow ones that they sell. I think they were a few pounds for 100 pieces, so very cheap.